What was the kingdom of Arthur II? Was that the same kingdom, North Wales?
Well, I think you've probably got a copy, but he was pronounced and proclaimed King of Glamorgan.
It was now time for Alan and Barham to go in search of the grave of Arthur. They knew that there was a tradition of him and his queen being buried at Glastonbury in Somerset, but that, as they quickly discovered, was unlikely.
Glastonbury Abbey in Somerset was founded by an English king in 941, and the first abbot was St Dunstan in 942. Now, if Arthur II dies in 579, then we're at least 450 years too late with Glastonbury in Somerset. There's another factor. Arthur is said to be buried in the great and ancient graveyard where multitudes of the great and illustrious of the British are buried. There is no great ancient graveyard at Glastonbury. It appears that Henry II had something to do with this promotion of the idea of Arthur in Somerset. So Henry II, in order to be king of Britain as such, wanted justification. Now, if he could claim to be the heir, if only by sort of linked royal succession of some sort, or the fact that he was a king of England, if he could prove that Arthur was a king of England in England, and he was then a later king of England, if Arthur ruled the whole of Britain, then so Henry II was entitled to rule the whole of Britain. Justification. And so it looks as if he prompted his cousin, at Glastonbury, the abbot, to dig up Arthur at Glastonbury, and that would provide Arthur being out of Wales, away from Wales, and into England. Arthur's an ancient English-British king, and therefore Henry II is entitled to rule Wales, Scotland, and England. Very simple.
If Arthur, King of Glamorgan, was not buried at Glastonbury, then where was his grave? Alan and Barham knew that the histories were the key, and that they were pointing to a place called Caer Caradoc. There were other clues to its location, but find Caer Caradoc, they reasoned, and you find his grave. In King List 28 there is mention of a Glamorgan king called Arthuriz or Arthmau, a 6th generation descendant of Arthur I.
You get a line of princes. You get a son of Arthur I, Tathal, then Taithrin the Subtle, Taithfalt or Theodosius, Tudrig, Theodoric, Meurig, Maurice, and then Meurig's son, Arthur II. And so you've got two Arthurs very clearly exhibited. These are not hidden. You find them clearly in the manuscript evidences that everybody else uses when they're writing about British history. So they're harder to miss than they are to find.
Why is it then that we have all this sort of weird King Arthur industry, and there's people get saying, oh, he's in Glastonbury and somewhere, you know, in Cornwall, and and they've mixed them all together. If it's so in the records, why has no one else found them?
Well, religious and political, manoeuvring for various, reasons.
What we're going to do, subsequent to this, is to go out into the field, as university people like to say. We're going out to show how to trace the grave of Arthur II. We know that King Tudrig, his grandfather, was an Uther Pendragon, but we also know that he's buried in Mathen Church, where he's been dug up twice, 1609 and 1881. But we've got an Uther Pendragon buried at a place called Caer Caradoc in the late 6th century. Now, this is not an obscure reference. We've got 168, there were 167, but another one's been found a year ago, 168 copies of the Brutes of England, the manuscript handwritten. And they say Uther Pendragon is buried at Caer Caradoc. It can't be the Uther Pendragon Tudrig, he's at Mathen, and it's towards the end of the 6th century. So, to us it's logical this is probably the Uther Pendragon Arthur. Similar information of an Uther Pendragon buried in the Giant Circle at Caer Caradoc exists in Matthew of Westminster. It's supplemented and it's reinforced by evidence in the Brut of Tysilio, in the Brut of Griffith ap Arthur, and in several Dark Age, 6th century poems in Wales. So we've got a massive evidence about this. what we're trying to say is, who is the Uther Pendragon? It clearly has to be Arthur. One of the problems has been is, how do you identify Caer Caradoc? Nobody appears to have bothered to find out. It hasn't been the subject of any research. The medieval said, well, there's a great circle at Caer Caradoc. Stonehenge is a great circle, that'll do, or Avebury. Well, Stonehenge is not the place, neither is Avebury. Caer means castle, the castle of Caradoc. Now we've got in Mid Glamorgan a big fortress mountain. It's called Fortress Mountain, mythical, and on it we have some strange things. We've got St. Peter's Church in ruin. The thing about St. Peter's Church is that it appears in the ancient Welsh histories as a place where Merlin Emrys meets the ambassadors of Vortigern. At Caer Caradoc we have Mynwent y Milwyr on this long mountain. Now Mynwent y Milwyr was built by Emrys Wledig around 470. He buried all the 363 major British nobles killed in the massacre with the Saxons at the peace conference. And he buried them in a giant circular monument known as the grave monuments of the soldiers, Mynwent y Milwyr. It's still on the map. Right, here on a 1980 Ordnance Survey map you've got the Mynwent y Milwyr, this monument of the soldiers of the military on Mynwent y Gaia, Fortress Mountain. We're going there. Now, in 1983, a mere 3 years later, we've got an addition to the maps in the form of a motorway, but up on Mynwent y Gaia, here, all right, can you focus in? We've lost the Mynwent y Milwyr. So we've gained a motorway and we've lost the most ancient and precious of the monuments. This is the monument of the soldiers. This is it, here. This is it. And you can see the whole of the bloody kingdom from here. Just about. You can't see up the valleys, but you can see the whole bloody kingdom from this point. And it's said to be at Caer Caradoc. The big circle one. You can trace it out and walk around it. Dead bodies. Well, there's lumps and mounds here, and this is the perimeter of it here. You can see the mound, the perimeter of it, and it walks around here.
Geoffrey of Monmouth said that the circular monument of the soldiers, built in about the 5th century AD, was Stonehenge. But this is clearly one of Geoffrey's many confusions. For Alan Wilson, then, this site, taken together with other evidence, pointed to the location of Caer Caradoc here, in Morgannwg.
So we've got St. Peter's Church at Caer Caradoc, and we've got Mynwent y Milwyr at Caer Caradoc. The highest part of this mountain, there's a grave mound, still named Twyn Caradoc, the grave mound of Caradoc, that's what it says. Close to St. Peter's Church and close to the ruins of ancient towers and walls of a castle, a caer, there is a giant ditch and mound, boat-shaped circle, let's call it, in the ground. So we have a giant circle at Caer Caradoc, we've got St. Peter's Church at Caer Caradoc, we've got the Mynwent y Milwyr at Caer Caradoc, and we've got Twyn Caradoc at Caer Caradoc, and we actually have a castle, a caer, or the ruins of it. All the names up here are evocative: the Ridge of the Soldiers, the Throne of the Knights, outpost forts defending the mountain, and so on. This is the edge of it. You've traced the mound there. It is there. Okay. Seen it? Most vital identification in Britain. We began with 2 accounts from the ancient records of the secret burial of a king in a mummified form. We now have 10 accounts, most of them from the 6th century AD, contemporary with the death of King Arthur. These accounts actually name the mummified king who was wrapped in a leather bag and brought to this river for burial in a secret cave. His name was Arthur, and he's so named in the manuscripts.
In the life of Illtyd and in Nennius, there's a strange story of a burial. A ship arrives at a river which is named the Iwenny River. Well, it's easy to find the Iwenny River.
We've got a story of a ship coming in from the sea, and it bears the body of an embalmed or mummified man. It says, oh, it arrives at the mouth of the Iwenny River. Well, this is the Iwenny River. It runs up in this area to the mountain. It's in the area of Gwir. Well, this is Gwir, Ogre, right? It mentions Loingarth and Lingarth. It means smooth ridges.
Well, the smooth ridges are the great sand dunes that are there. And runners used to use them, long-distance runners, to train themselves up and down the sand dunes in modern times.
It says how St Illtyd is sitting at a cave mouth. He comes to the boat. Two eminent people are with this corpse. They deliver the corpse, telling him the name of the person who is dead and wrapped up.
And what happens is that St Illtyd is sitting at his cave, and the ship arrives, and there are eminent people in this boat that puts out from it, and they've got the body of a dead man, who was really some big guy. They bring it to Illtyd, swear him to secrecy, and he buries the corpse in the cave. Now, the cave exists, it's still there.
Down there, my colleague will tell you about it, that's the woods down there, you see it on that hill? And in that woods down there, that's the Coed Woods where Arthur was put in the cave, first burial place. Go to the Coed Woods, there is a cave in a cliff. Here are the Coed Woods, the woods of mystery, where the cave of St Illtyd is. This is where Illtyd sat and where he received the body in 579 AD. Secret burial took place in the cave in these woods.
Now there exists in Wales at least 5 folk tales describing Arthur as lying asleep in a cave or under a mountain with 1,000 of his soldiers, awaiting the day when their help will be required by the inhabitants of Britain. But more importantly, according to the Welsh genealogies, St Illtyd and King Arthur are first cousins.
So we've got an account of a secret burial in Glamorgan at the very time that King Arthur, who's the only senior member of the royal clan who goes missing, is recorded as being concealed in his burial. And we've got his first cousin doing the burying in this cave.
The cave was actually sealed up until about, I think it was 1886. A man from Cardiff went down there, and he got a local quarryman, and they put teeny bits of dynamite in, and they blew the opening out because stalagmite and stalactite had flowed down, not a lot of it, but it had sealed all the stones together. So he blew it open and went in. And there is a grave pit inside the cave.
Duck your head down. You have to keep down coming in here, you know. Come on, duck down. Keep down here, or only down here until I tell you. Right? Come on down. Come on through. Keep your heads down. Ready? Right, you can come through another yard or two. Come through another yard or two. Now, here is the grave pit. You can see the squared off ends, square that end, squared right on there, very, very straight and square this side, and another square end that end. It's about 3.5, 4 feet wide, 3.5, 4 feet deep, and right across the cave about 11 feet long. Now that's the grave pit, exactly as described in the life of St Illtyd. The grave in the cave. It runs east to west, which is Christian fashion, east to west. Here we have something which is nothing short of miraculous, an amazing find.
Two young men from the Cardigan College, it's a film college.
Okay.
They went along and they were filming in this cave, filming the grave pit. Above the thing, they panned across the side of the wall of the cave. And it's not until you get back and you look at it and say, oh, there's writing there. And it's covered with stalagmite, you see. So again...
It's very old.
It's very old.
So what did it say?
It's in the Welsh ancient British Coleman alphabet, and it says, this is the place of the bier of the highest ruler.
And he's taken from that woods and he's brought to Caer Caradog, because two histories say that King Arthur is at Caer Caradog.
One of the two accounts, one's in Illtyd and one's in the Marbles of Britain in Nennius, says how the body is later taken out to a church and placed near or in this church.
Everything is pointing here, to this area. So the Uther Pendragon in the giant circle, because in the giant circle we find a grave mound. Uther Pendragon is in the giant circle at Caer Caradog. St Illtyd is the undertaker, does the burying. St Illtyd is the first cousin of King Arthur, King Arthur II. Add to this another story. We have a story of visitors coming from Brittany to visit the cave of Arthur, the grave of Arthur. They land on the coast, which is a coast of cliffs. Well, from Cardiff to the Iweni is 35 miles of cliffs, steep ones. And they say how there's a little inlet, a little dell, a little dingle, a valley, a tiny valley, very green, beautiful, little stream running down it. They come ashore there, and on the one cliff on the one side is an ancient church, and the other is a fortress. On the one side we have Caen Eglwys, ancient church, and the other side we have the relics and ruins of a major fortress. Caen Eglwys is known to be the grave of King Ceri Longsword, who succeeded Caradoc I to fight the Romans around the year 51 to 80 AD. These people land at this place, they come inland, they go all along Wooded Valley, which is still there between Llantryston and Llanharan. They come to a long mountain. This is a long sausage-shaped mountain. There is a little valley let into the mountain. There is a little valley let into the mountain. A stream runs down it. And it's so steep they have to get off their horses and lead them up the slope to get to the top, to the grave of Arthur. And you'll still see people doing that today when they ride their horses around this mountain. And they are smack on target. We reasoned where this church would be, because just up above, a straight line up there above the woods, and there's the ruin of St. Peter's Church. So one account then again says your stone there became a mystery. So we say, hey, there's a stone, you know, we got to look for this. So we started rooting about. This church had been abandoned about turn of the century, 1900-ish.
Okay.
So we got hold of the Church of Wales and we said, do you want to sell it? And they said yes. So we bought it. So we now owned it, so we could root about quite free from any hindrance. And we did find a stone.
And what did the stone say?
It's actually, either it's nonsense or it's lousy Latin. It says Rex Artorius Fili Mabrici, which would be...
King Arthur?
Yeah, but it should say Artorius Rex in good Latin. But we don't know who carved it. Perhaps it was some soldier or idiot who didn't know what he's doing. So this is a stone, and it does have carved lettering on it. And you can make them out there. It runs down to here and here.
Although this was found long before the excavation in 1990, Professor Talbot, the archaeologist, actually found the niche in the wall where the stone
could have been.
Appears to have been.
So there you go. Well, it's very similar in shape to the Magna Cum stone down at Nevern. The lettering is pretty close to lettering. It's the same as lettering on other 6th century stones.